This is Porn Talk. Here is your host, Eric Zuzak.
Welcome back to Porn Talk and another enlightening episode, the 49-year-old virgin. I'm your host, Powerful Eric, and we're thrilled to have a returning guest who's ready to lead us once again through the intricate world of relationships and the faith-aligning dating, none other than Dr. Paula C. Perez. You remember her from the previous conversation. We shared her transformative insights, leaving us hungry for more. Well, the wait is over. Dr. Paula is back, and she's about to take us even deeper into the heart of the matter. So without any further delay, let's extend a warm welcome back to Dr. Paula C. Perez.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we talked about a lot of the challenges being single later in life and pornography. So let's talk about solutions. First of all, the title of this show is Porn Talk. What advice do you have in regard to pornography?
I write about this in one of my books entitled Boundaries, Saving Yourself Until Marriage. And one of the things that I find, again, is what do we put into our mind? We are created to utilize our senses to understand the world. However, we need to show some discretion and judgment in what we allow in. We need to use a filter. We should be thinking on things that are good, that are kind, that, will allow us to become better people. So when I'm talking with young people, I encourage them to, first of all, they need to learn to love themselves. I talked about a 4-step framework, and that's the first step, self-love. Learning to love yourself, because when you love yourself, when you get to know yourself, because many times we don't even know who we are. We are reliant on other people to define us. So when we know who we are, when we genuinely love ourselves, it's easy to then make wiser decisions. So that filter for me is really important. For me, I couldn't listen to any and everything. As I started thinking about the music that I was playing, I love a lot of genres. Music is my thing. But I realized it was more than just the rhythm. It was more than just the melody. I had to listen to the words, because even if I was concentrating on the beat, on the flow, the words were getting into my spirit. And I had to stop listening to music that condoned sexual acts, that condoned, fornication, that condoned so many things that I was trying not to do, because I really believe every action starts with a thought. So it's important that we control what we're thinking about. So that is one area that I talk a lot about. I also think for parents, we have a great responsibility, and too many parents, for whatever reason, are afraid to talk to their children about sex. They make up names for body parts and they can't have a healthy conversation, which then leads your child to think, well, why aren't they talking about it? It must be something that I need to find out on my own. So then they start going to friends, to other family members to get the information that they're craving. And oftentimes they go to the wrong sources. So there's a lot that we can talk about in regards to that.
And what do you feel about singles, people that are single, and masturbation?
For me, it's wrong. Because masturbation stirs up that sexual desire, and you've got to satisfy it in some way. And many times the images that we use to stir up that sexual feeling, that sexual energy to help to enable us to have an orgasm, many times we're focusing on images that just shouldn't be. And again, I believe I believe in the power of our mind. And many people will use masturbation to satisfy, of course, a need, but it becomes a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
It becomes a vicious cycle. And rather than awakening that drive, rather than feeding it, it's easier not to turn it on.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to for me, that was dating God's way. So it was easier for me not to stir up those feelings, not to stir up those emotions. And when I was doing something that did, it let me say, okay, I need to leave that alone, because I couldn't righteously fulfill the desire. I knew I was committed to not having sex until I got married. But I also didn't want to have the frustration of being stirred up sexually and not having an outlet. So again, I really believe it's a vicious cycle that as a single, I couldn't satisfy. So rather than go there, I just left it alone. I just felt it's better not to stir it up. And I would often say to my single friends, how can I miss something I haven't experienced? For many of them, they had been sexually active and were trying not to be. But because I had never stirred up that part of my body, it was easier. Yeah. Not that there weren't temptations, but it was certainly easier.
Yeah. There's so much wisdom in facing masturbation that way, because it's certainly easier just not going there at all. Because with pornography, I do not believe there's a healthy anymore. I don't believe there's a healthy use of porn because of, like, let's just say it could be healthy. Well, then what about the people that are making it, that are on the other side, that have been sex trafficked and drugged to, perform?
To do it, yes.
Is it healthy for them? So I don't believe there's a healthy use, but with masturbation, I think there can be a healthy use of masturbation, but I totally agree with you that you are kind of opening Pandora's box, and that
exactly. And that's a good analogy, Pandora's box, definitely.
Because, if you keep going, then you can't stop, and you can can lead to pornography. And
correct.
So, but that brings me to boundaries. So how did you maintain your boundaries?
Well, boundaries is actually an acronym, and I wrote about it in this second book. It's entitled Boundaries: Saving Yourself for Marriage. And there's actually, Eric will drop into the show notes a link for this acronym so that you can have it. But it talks about believing in yourself and believing in God, obeying his principles, understanding his word, and normalizing doing things his way. In the book, I say no wed, no bed. The importance of discipline and self-control, of surrounding yourselves with accountability partners. So I go through each of the letters and talk about ways that we can use biblical principles to help keep us, to help save us. And one of the big parts is accountability partners. I don't think people realize the power of having someone walk alongside you to do life. And for me, I had a great set of parents, but I also had a network of friends that really loved and supported me. So when I had challenges, I could go to them. I could filter my thought processes and what I was thinking about doing through them. And the beautiful thing was they would call me on my stuff. Many times we will go to friends that are yes people. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. But it's important that as you think about accountability partners, that you get people that will call you out, will say, no, you shouldn't do that, or he's not the one, or no, don't go there. And where were you last night at 10 o'clock? Did you park? All of that stuff. So I just believe that boundaries is a safety net to not only help keep you safe, but to also enhance the relationship that you enter into. I had such freedom in my sexual experience with my husband because he was the first and only. Yeah, I wasn't bringing the baggage of, well, he didn't do it like this one did it. Or, he's not as good as that. I have no other experiences. So to be able to share such a beautiful expression of love with the one person in my life, for me has been a gift. And I credit waiting till we got married for us to do that. There's so much that we can do to help support our children, to help support other singles, to be able to live with constraint, to be able to live within the safety of boundaries. And in the book, I go into great detail with each of these. And the book is designed as a study guide so that it gives you reflection questions. It gives you some assignments, things to reflect on, things to write out. And a lot of people that have read the book have written back and said, I wish I had this when I was younger.
The book she's referring to is Boundaries, Saving Yourself Until Marriage, Dr. Paula C. Perez.
Yes. Yeah. And in the book, I start the book with before I go into the meat of the book, I have a poem. And in the poem, I say, boundaries in relationships is a guide to remain celibate. It's a journey through love where one should never hesitate to set limits and to protect your heart, a path of self-discovery, perhaps a fresh start, a time to reflect, to understand what's true, a time to find peace in all that you do, to recognize the limits, to know what you need, and to stay within the lines where true love can succeed. It's not always easy to stay on this course with temptations and desires that could cause a divorce. But from the principles, the values that you hold so dear, with strong boundaries, your love will remain sincere. So hold on tight to the path you have chosen and never let go of a love that's not broken. For with strong boundaries, your heart will remain pure and your love will flourish forever to endure. So trust in yourself, trust in God's love, and never compromise the blessings from above. For with strong boundaries, your love will shine bright, a beacon of hope in a world of darkness and night. So I start the book off with this poem as a source of encouragement that it's worth it. It's really, really worth it, because when we live outside of boundaries, somebody's going to get hurt, either you or someone else.
Yeah.
And those violations ripple into our relationships. And to safeguard your relationships, it's always best to stay within the boundaries.
I love that poem. And before you did the poem, you talked about accountability. And if someone's to the point of being addicted to pornography or masturbation or compulsive sex, trying to do that on your own is virtually impossible. It's to the point of addiction. So having an accountability partner is crucial and critical to move forward. But so boundaries, what boundaries did you put in place that led you to a healthy marriage?
Number one, I based everything. For me, my foundation is a belief in God. Then learning to love myself was key. You remember in the last episode, I said one of the questions that when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and beginning of my 40s, I would ask, what's wrong with me? Why won't somebody love me? And I realized that I needed to love myself. I needed to be confident in who I was. I needed to be comfortable being alone. So I poured into myself. I tried to become the best person, the best version of myself that I could. I wanted to become the person that I was looking for, that they would be looking for. So in other words, I wanted to have the character traits. I wanted to have the values, the belief systems that I was looking for in someone else. Because how can we demand that of someone else if we're not doing it ourselves? So that's one of the things that I did. And then I think, again, we talked about the accountability, but that network of friends, it's important that for me, that I surrounded myself with people that had similar values. You know, we hear the saying, birds of a feather flock together. So I realized if I wanted to stay on my road of celibacy, that I needed to surround myself with people that thought in the same way that I did. So it wouldn't be a clash, wouldn't be a challenge. And I would not even entertain guys that did not have that belief system. So that was in itself is a boundary. You know, there were certain limitations that we have. However, one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that I had a clear list in my mind of what was non-negotiable in another partner. And that was one of them. I did not want a partner that would try to force me to have sex with him. And thank God, the guy that I ended up with never, not once did he push that expectation on me. So all of those things I think have been beneficial for me. Again, our mind is so powerful. So again, trying to filter what I take in was very important. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I allowed in my body, whether it was food, whether it was thought, whether it was music, all of it, that it would help me in achieving my goal. So for me, alcohol was not even on the list. I did not have a desire, because I saw too many people that when they were drunk, when they were stoned, that's when things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our inhibitions are gone. We half the time don't know what we're doing. And I did not want that experience. I had too many friends when they allowed their inhibitions to go, that's when things happen. And I wanted to have my wits about myself so that I can make informed, wise decisions in the moment.
Very wise. So waiting 49 years for your first to have sex, what lessons have you learned from your promises being delayed?
Ah, good question. I think the biggest lesson is that because I believe in God, because I believe in Jesus, I know there's a verse that says, I know the plans that I have for you, plans for hope, to give you a future. So I knew God had the big picture in mind. So in my waiting, I needed to trust that he had my best at heart, that he knew the plan, that he knew the destination that he wanted to get me to. And when I was ready to receive, when I was ready to move forward, that's when the promise would come. And for me, it was a matter of faith. Do I believe in an almighty God, or don't I? Do I believe that he knows what he's doing, or don't I? So that's faith. That's trust. And for me, I needed to trust in his perfect plan for my life. And I believe, just like a loving parent, we don't just give our children anything and everything. There's times when we know they're not ready to handle it. You're too young. Just like you talked about not giving your 4 and 8-year-old telephones, iPads, because they're too young. I really feel that God does that with us as well. There's lessons that we need to learn. There's a place we need to be to receive the blessing, to receive the gifts. So as I made sure my priorities were in the right order, in the first episode, I talked about, I went through a season where my life was driven by finding a guy. I'm going to find him. I'm going to make sure that he sees me. I'm going to make sure that I get his attention. That became my God. it took priority to the true and living God. So once I've corrected that order and put my priorities in the right place, that's when things began to unfold for me. And I remember a year before I met my husband and we started dating, I felt like I was going to be married. And I said, in fact, to a group of single friends at a retreat that I was sponsoring, you know what? I feel like I'm going to be married within the year. And I believed it so strongly that I started getting ready. I started putting money away for a wedding, and I wasn't even dating anyone, but I put money aside for a wedding. As a young person, I had braces. That's a whole nother story. But when I took my braces off, I didn't wear the retainer. So a gap had formed. I went to the orthodontist and got my teeth straight because I wanted to be picture ready, camera ready when the time came for my wedding. I did all of those things. I got myself in shape. I started working out, all of that because I believed it that strongly. And talking about manifesting what you want in your life, I literally wrote it down. I shared it with a group of people and walked in such a way that it happened. I met my husband. He saw me. And I write about this in the memoir, 49-Year-Old Virgin. I started out talking about a day when I felt driven to go to a program that my dad was in charge of in the city. And I overslept, so they left me. But I felt I needed to be there so badly that I called around and got a ride. It was about a 2-hour drive, and one of my uncles was going. So that was the day when I was revealed to my husband to be. He said I walked into the facility, and it was almost like the light shone behind me, and God was saying, she's the one. And from that point, we went on our first date the following Saturday, and we were married 4 months later. So things can happen quickly. And for me, the timing couldn't have been better. I enjoyed, like I said, it took a minute to get there, but I enjoyed my single life. I was very active, fruitful. There's a lot that I accomplished in that time. But when that season ended, I was ready for the next season. So it's been great.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Paula, we're going to need to wrap up here shortly. There's someone listening to the podcast right now that doesn't like themselves. They're wondering, how come I'm not married yet? How come I don't have a boyfriend? How come I don't have a girlfriend? And they may possibly be addicted to pornography or sexual acting out. What words of wisdom would you share with that person?
Reach out to me. Eric will drop in the link, ways to be able to connect with me, or both of us. If it's a porn addiction, definitely reach out to Powerful Eric as well, because he has a testimony. He can help you in that area. But I really have felt called to walk alongside singles, especially single women, to let them know who they are, to let them know why they are lovable, to help them to grow in areas that they may need to grow. And I have a program that I do with singles that is customized. Through a series of surveys and questions, I design a program specifically for you. So if you're interested in hearing more, please reach out to me. On September 9th, in fact, we will be doing a masterclass, free masterclass on Zoom that's entitled 4 Steps to Love. And I'll delve into more of that framework during that time. But in the meantime, reach out to me. The information will be in the show notes. And my desire is to walk alongside of you. If you are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, I do a daily tip for singles. And each day, they're not very long, 1 or 2 minute videos that talk about things that you can do as a single to prepare yourself, to improve the way you are seeing yourself, and to be able to support you on your journey to love. So again, reach out to me. I do a weekly newsletter that also talks about boundaries in relationships, that gives you some advice. So I want to support you. A lot of free resources, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. And you also have your book, Boundaries, Saving Yourself Until Marriage, and your other book, your memoir, The 49-Year-Old Virgin. And if someone wants to reach out to you, how do they do that?
The best way is my website, which is drpaulacperez.com. That's DR, the abbreviation for doctor, DR Paula, middle initial C, Perez, PEREZ.com. And all of my books are listed on there, as well as information about Yana. Yana is a word that means God is gracious, but it's also an acronym that I use for You Are Not Alone. And I want you to know there are people that have been where you are, but we can help show you how to get to a better place. So reach out.
Love that, Yana. You are not alone.
Yes.
You listener, I'm talking to you, right? You, that person that's listening right now, we're talking to you. Remember, you are not alone.
Yes.
Reach out for help. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Another enlightening conversation with the incredible Dr. Paula C. Perez here on Porn Talk. We want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Paula for gracing us with her transformative insights on relationships, dating, sex, faith. And remember, the wisdom she shared doesn't end here. If you're hungry for more guidance on navigating the path to meaningful relationships, be sure to explore our previous episodes and stay connected with the empowering content we have in store on the podcast. And thank you for being a part of the podcast community, and stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on Porn Talk. And I'm going to close with this quote from Zig Ziglar, who says, "You are what you are and where you are because of what has gone into your mind. But you can change what you are and you can change where you are by changing what goes into your beautiful mind."
Thanks for listening. If you're struggling with porn or sex addiction, reach out to Eric at powerfuleric.com.